Hi everyone, welcome to another quilt tutorial by Stitch Delight. In today's tutorial we will show you how to do this gorgeous dream panel from Hoffman fabrics. It's the Dream Big Rose. This is what it looks like, and you can see it features all the leaves that's done separately using a multiple hooping technique with the border that's also done in multiple hooping. So we will show you how to get this result, and we will be doing this purple panel in this tutorial, and we hope you enjoy quilting with us. So get your coffee, get your machine and everything ready, and let's get started. Now, apart from your fabric and your batting, of course, you might wonder about stabilizer. We will not be using stabilizer for this project because we will be using our magnetic hoops. Now, this is my magnetic hoop for my machine. It's just a metal plate, and then it has these loose magnets that goes on top. If you are not using, or you don't have magnetic hoops, you can use normal clamp hoops as well. But then you will use a water-soluble Vilene as your stabilizer, and you will float your project on top. So just keep that in mind. You will be needing 2 reels of thread in the color of your choice, depending on the panel that you will be stitching. You also need some marking pens. Now again, the type of pen you will be using also depends on your panel. I've got these air erasable markers, but as they are purple, I won't be able to use them on the purple panel, so I will be using just a chalk white pencil for this specific one. We will add some links for you in the description below on various marking materials. If you will be using your normal tubular frames, then you will need some 505 spray to float your project on top of your stabilizer. You will also need some sticky tape. This is just ordinary Scotch tape that you will be using for your templates. And then on the template topic, you can either print your templates on normal paper, and when you print it, it will look like this. And then you will just cut it out so you have your template only with showing your crosshairs on top of that. It is easier if you use transparencies. Now I've got this brand Penguin inkjet transparencies that you can print with your normal inkjet printer on, and this really works well with lining up, as you can see through them. As you can see here, you can see through the transparency the design, so you can place it very nicely on top of the background print. So folks, that's it for all the materials you will be needing. So let's start prepping our fabric and batting and stitch the first panel. I'm just going to use some 505 spray. I found that it's plenty to hold the panel in place, but you can use pins as well if you are worried that it will move. And I'm just smoothing it out as I go along. In your files, you will find this template that shows you the placement of your various panels. And remember, this is the bottom of your quilt. So wherever the name is on the selvage, that will be the bottom of your quilt as well. So I'm just going to turn it so it faces the right way with my print. And we're starting with panel number 1. Now let's look at the placement. Let's do the placement of leaf number 1. On your template, you will see all the placement of your various leaves, and we're going to start there with number 1 right in the center. So I'm going to show you using the paper template as it's easier to see on camera, and we are looking at this very sharp dark line which you will use to line up. And then if you look at the print where the leaf goes, just line up your paper template as closely as you can on that line. Now I'll show you using the transparency quickly, just so you can see how easy that is actually to work out, because you can see your fabric through your transparency. Placement is much more easier this way. After you're happy with your placement, I'm using Scotch tape just to tape my panel template in place. I'm then going to extend my crosshairs onto my fabric. I just want to say we will use these crosshairs to line up with the markings on your hoop. Now, if you have brand new hoops like these and there's no crosshairs, remember that you need to measure and mark your crosshairs on your frame as well, so that you have something to line it up with. Let's move over to the embroidery machine where we will start stitching this first panel. When you print your templates, the top of the page, this is the orientation of the design that you will load onto your machine. So it won't always be the top of the panel. Remember, the panel gets turned and as the designs lay, so just bear that in mind. So it's not like you have the top of your panel and the top is always on top. It will turn as you go along. Okay, so first we've marked our centers now, and we're ready now to these crosses that we've extended. We're going to need to line that up with the hoop at the bottom. Now I'm just going to show you my hoop quickly. Just take this away. This is the hoop I'm going to use. It's a 370 by 370. It's roughly a 9 by 9 size hoop, inch hoop. And I've marked my crosshairs in black there. I have various markings, so just ignore those. You're just working with the black markings at the moment. And I'm going to shift my panel under the machine. And then I'm going to use a pin and I'm going to push it through the crosshair, through the quilt, and I'm going to lift it up and look for the marking on the bottom, and then I'm going to place my first magnet there. I'm pushing my pin through. This is the bottom crosshair, so I'm just going to push my pin through there and making sure that it lines up with the marking on my hoop. You can see the black mark there. And when I'm happy with the placement, I'm just going to add a magnet on top, securing it with a magnet. Okay, and you will do this the same with the left side and with the top, making sure all 4 markings are spot on. When you're happy with the 4 crosshairs, you can just secure the corners. Okay, I'm just bringing down my needle so I can see how far I need to shimmy the design over, so that the crosshairs align with the needle. I'm just using the paper template here so that you folks can see what I'm doing. And I'm just bringing my needle down. See, I need to shift it open a little bit until I'm happy that it's properly in the center. Once you're happy with your alignment, you can remove the template and then you can press start. I'm going to remove my magnets. We're now going to place number 2. Now number 2, if you look closely, you're going to use this dark line to line it up. And I'm going to use this bottom here, but on the inside of the leaf, I'm going to use this light corner because that is not going to be stitched. So you can more or less see, if you place the template, you can see exactly where it needs to go. And again, once happy with the placement, just tape it down. And I will again be extending my crosshairs. And you can see that this is the top of the design now, so we need to turn the quilt to align it with the design. The first 2 is done. You will notice this area that's left unstitched. If you look at your template, it's unstitched there as well, so that is a gap that's created. So if you have placed your panel a little bit, say for instance file number 1, you've placed a little bit to that inside, it won't matter, it won't overstitch. One panel won't stitch over another one, so you have a little bit of wiggle room. So we're going to do number 3 now, and this is the number 3. If you take a look at your template, it's right next to number 1. So we're going to use the back of number 1 there to line up number 3. Remove our template. Just a quick trace. We finished with the 3rd file. You can already see how the fabric is transformed. Doesn't that look pretty? I'm going to continue with a few more leaves off camera just so we can progress a little bit further along the way, and we'll be back to show you more in a bit. I've hooked cutaway stabilizer and I'm now going to mark the center. We've finished the rose now, as you can see. And we will now be adding a border, but if you do not wish to add the border that we have included in the files for you, you can finish your quilt as you would like by adding borders or whatever you would like to do with it. We will be demonstrating a reversed applique method to add your border to the quilt. So let's get started on that. Please give it a good press, steam iron it so that it lays flat. You will need a piece of fabric that's bigger than your front at this stage. Now you can add about 4 inches to either side or to all sides for the sizing of your fabric. And I've cut a piece. I'm going to use a purple for my background. I've matched the color with the center of my rose. For the frame, start by cutting your batting about 57 inches. It can be a little bit larger, doesn't really matter as long as it's not smaller than that measurement. And then cut your front fabric about 47 inches square. Then take 505 spray and stick your fabric to your batting, and you can use some pins to secure it on the edge. And then we'll start out with our measurements. Fold it in half and just iron it for yourself the center lines. It just makes it a little bit easier. Then you start out by measuring on one side 1108 millimeters or 43.6, and you can start from the center, so just half that measurement, half that side, half this side, and then you measure out all 4 sides to get your full square. We will start with panel A. So you're going to place your panel A with this. I'm just going to place this white underneath so you can see the crosshairs on your template. So this vertical line we're going to place on the center line, and we're going to line up the top of the design with the border that you drew on your fabric. And you're going to tape that in place, and then we're going to stitch this design. So I'll show you how to do the initial stitching, and then we'll just continue on either side to do the top. Just a quick tip: if you battle to see through the transparency where the center point is because of the dark fabric, simply slide a piece of paper between the transparency and the fabric, and you can see your center point more clearly. I've aligned my center with the needle now, so I'm just going to remove my template, and I'm going to start stitching the first piece. Friends, we just finished stitching our panel and just finished your frame now. And what we've did here is we just stitched about an inch from this white line that you can see here, the border of the frame. We've just stitched there because my fabric tends to fray. And then I've just cut 1/4 of an inch and I've cut a hole out. And this is just so that we could get the perfect placement onto your panel. So you just carefully line up all these points that you can see with what you see on your actual panel, and then just pin it in place. You can see there where the V goes in, and here goes the V in. So you're just going to follow all around, making sure that you've got a nice placement for your frame, and then just pin it everywhere. And I will now be stitching with my sewing machine right on that edge. I'm just going to do a light satin stitch or a zigzag stitch just to keep that fabric from fraying. You can even do a satin stitch if you would like to, just to keep your frame, to stitch your frame onto your panel. And then we will be cutting this away. So this basically becomes an applique onto your panel. So you're not cutting your panel. We cut out the frame in the middle and then we applique the frame onto the panel. So let's do that and then we'll be back to show you more. After we stitch the panel to your frame, you have this extra bit and you can now cut it close to the stitches. You could cut it away. I can just say that you can peek inside and just make double sure you got your placement ready, because this is your last chance to unpick and change the rotation or something of the panel if you wish to. After you cut, you won't be able to, so just be careful for that. So I'm just going to cut off this excess now. You can see I'm cutting close to the stitches. I'm just going to finish that off. You can either with a decorative stitch in the same color, purple color, or you can just use a satin stitch, whatever you'd like to finish it off with. We'll be back as soon as we've finished cutting all around. You can now finish off the raw edge here with a decorative stitching of your choice or a satin stitch of your choice. And we will then be adding some borders and binding. So I'm first going to square off this quilt, then I'm going to add some borders, and then I'm going to add my backing because we've just got the raw back at the moment. So I'm going to add some backing, and then we're going to bind our quilt. So I will show you once we finish with all of that. I'll show you exactly what it looks like when it's done. I left this one just as it is, but I decided with the purple one I'm going to experiment a little bit. And before I added the back fabric, I added some more batting just behind the rose. I stitched around and then I cut away the extra batting, so there's no extra batting behind the frame here, but there's extra batting here behind the rose. And I then just outlined free motion quilting each leaf just to give it that extra puff and extra dimension. And we're done. Just look how fabulous this looks. We've added the narrow border followed by a wider border, and then we just added back fabric, and we added the binding. So very easy to do, folks, to make a gorgeous little quilt like this. So have fun with the panels, experiment, do whatever you like. You can even applique different insects on top. So have fun with this panel, folks. It's really easy to do, and I know you're gonna love it. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and remember also to click on that little bell so you are notified whenever we upload new videos for you guys to watch, and have some fun stitching with us.